Hey guys, hope you're doing well. I haven't uploaded a video in a while, so I kind of wanted to do this or something. And I saw my recent push-up video like popping off, getting some upvotes around, and got some views. So I thought I'd make another video and come out with it. And this was very impromptu, but I saw on my desktop just this panel from Berserk, and it just prompted me thinking. I finished Berserk. I've got to the end of it, and I know they're making new chapters. I guess I wanted to kind of say, what Berserk really means to me, in a sense. I'm sure many people have done this, but I feel it's very helpful. I think to actually um, yeah, kind of like highlight why I really like this manga and how it kind of impacted me in a very pivotal way. I mean, Berserk's been around since like I guess the 80s and 90s, and I only came across it last year with Kentaro Miura passing away. But realistically, I've been kind of interacting with Berserk or with I guess the remnants of Berserk since I ever played Dark Souls. If you don't know Dark Souls, great game series, inspired a lot by Berserk, massively by Berserk as well, and I've been playing that since 2009, and I've loved the series of games. And though I've kind of grown and matured away from like playing them as much as I used to, I still love those games, and I love the kind of lesson they teach of continuous action, continuous improvement, failing at something and getting better. But yeah, I'd not read Berserk though, even though I kind of actually no, I remember once maybe at the library getting out a copy of Berserk. This was right during the God, it was when like the Kushan Empire was invading as well. I'd never read Berserk, so I read it without even knowing what the hell was going on. I didn't even understand, but it was like, yeah. I don't know why I did that, but I went back and read it properly. It's an amazing, it's an amazing manga. The original '97 anime is really good as well. I wouldn't recommend the 2006 ones because they just look terrible and it just sounds terrible. It really got shafted there. But what Berserk means to me, really, I mean, one of the fundamental and most pivotal themes of Berserk, I think, really is it's kind of trauma, isn't it, as well? Guts all this life has been obviously massive spoilers for Berserk as well ahead. There's so many traumatized characters. Guts, Casca, Griffith in a way as well. He's been traumatized. There's so much dealing, or I wouldn't say dealing with trauma, but there's so much like very brutal examination of trauma, and it can be said that maybe you couldn't make a manga like Berserk today because of so much rape that happens in it. But then it's the thing about the rape is it's so visceral. It's the kind of like most. I wouldn't say the most. Well, yeah, it is one of the most traumatic things a human can go through. That kind of thing. And to go through that and live with it and live after it and live as a victim. Everything with Casca, everything with Guts, everything with everyone really. Who goes to Farnese as well. She goes through some shit. And it's kind of learning to live off the trauma and learning to go through it. There's this beautiful. I'm trying to think now. One of the best panels I think is when Guts, I think when they're on the boat and Guts jumps down to try to save Casca. She falls off the boat and he tries to grab her with his fake metal arm, and he can't grab her, you know, and then that prompts this beautiful realization. It's like things have changed. It's just what's the beautiful line is this lump of metal he attached to his arm to like beat up bad guys. It's not an arm, and he can't ever get that arm back. And that kind of recognition that things can't ever go back to the way they were is it's a scary thing for anyone to really acknowledge, but it also is a very beautiful thing as well because everything's changing. I can't ever go back to the way things were, when I was a kid or when things were different. And also, if anything, it's very much a lesson in anger. I think there's a beautiful panel. I think where Guts is fighting, he's fighting against those like Makara, like those giant whale elephant things. And on the side note, I love how Miura uses a lot of inspiration from like Indian culture and Indian like mythos as well for like the Kushans and all that stuff. I really think it's really cool. As an Indian person myself, it's cool to see that representation. So I really dig that. But yeah, he's fighting against all these Makara or whatever, and he's gone using the armor. He's gone berserk. I think Shriek is trying to like access his like mind or whatever and try and pull him back out the armor. And when she's in there, the way he sees the world while he's in the armor is like it's all terrifying. Like you think when he's in the armor and he's doing all the cool backflips and he's doing all the cool sword stuff and he's swinging his sword, it looks so cool and it looks so awesome and it looks amazing. He's so powerful, he's so monstrous, he's so you want to be like that. You want to be like Guts of the Berserker armor, unchained, unlimited. There's nothing stopping you. You're so powerful. But when Shriek sees like how he sees the world in the Berserker armor, it's all fear. Like the way he sees like the things he's fighting against, like these big shark things, but all he sees is his giant mouths. It's a really horrifying panel. All he just sees is his giant mouths and teeth, and it's all just fear. It's all coming from a place of real visceral fear. Like it, it comes from a place of like I guess understand why he's using the armor or where that kind of power comes from. Is like you see that kind of visceral fear and you react to it like an animal. Like given that he fights like a wolf and all that stuff, very thematic, but also very true in that if you're going to be coming from a place of anger and using it so much, you just, it comes from a place of fear, and that wears you down, and that kills you, and that's very much like real life, Anger is kind of like this, anger in Buddhism at the very least is seen as like one of the greatest sins, because of, what could be, that emotion of anger, you can enact some really horrible real world consequences, death and slavery and torture and all these things and persecution all come from this kind of anger, as righteous as justified as it may be. But yeah, that panel always sticks out to me as well, and it's a shame he passed, but what he made, this the level of work and detail he put into his panels as well. I've got so many photos on my computer saved of like all the different panels, because like the level of detail Miura put into his work, that will kill him. And this could point to a very well an issue in the Japanese mangaka. I mean, even just pointing to an issue in Japanese culture as well. Overwork and all that kind of stuff is very much a prevalent issue. And within that culture, people just grow old working and die from overworking. Especially manga writers as well. It's known to be such a brutal, insane industry. You just look up mangaka's timetable, for example, or look up the guy who does One Piece's timetable. It is insane how hard these guys have to work. And I'm sure nowadays, with digital work and editing, things are a bit easier. But like, yeah, when Miura was making his stuff, man, it was all just hand drawn, absolutely insane. And it's just, it speaks to something, I guess, that he dedicated, in the same way that Guts, constantly wanted to improve, constantly wanted to achieve these goals. Miura himself, constantly wanted to get better, constantly wanted to surpass himself, But maybe there's something to be learned there. You shouldn't really push yourself into the point of death. There's no point, I think, to that. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a moot point to say, well, the thing is, maybe even Berserk isn't really that great a manga, Like, I'm only reading it now in retrospect. If I was reading it back in the day where there were so many hiatuses and pauses and, like, they were on the boat for, like, years, for example, maybe I wouldn't think of it as good as a manga, really. But in terms of what it's gone to inspire, or maybe in terms of its meaning and its ethos and just the message behind it, that there's so many messages, like healing from trauma, finding yourself amongst people, learning how to be in society, learning not how to like rely on anger, learning that you can change, things can change, finding new goals, finding new missions, growing as a person. All these very beautiful things that we can learn from this manga as well, and all these lessons. So, Berserk's a really good manga. I'd highly recommend you go read it. I'll link. The thing is, the books are very expensive and it's quite a lot to get. One day, I'd love to own all the books. I'm definitely not in a financial position now, so I read it online, for better or worse. I'll link down in the description below. A good place to read it online if you want to get started. But I really like Berserk. It's a really good manga. I'm excited. I'm really excited to see where this is going. I think the new panels are coming out middle of August as well, so I'm excited to see where the ending of it will go as well. But yeah, Berserk is such a great manga, and I'm very grateful to have read it and grateful to have learned lessons from it. Anyways, guys, take care. Remember, choose purpose over pleasure.